Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I just want to start off by saying it's been such an honor to be so engaged in this curriculum in the Sovereign Way in Elizabeth's book. And I was talking to Megan yesterday about it. It feels like, I've had the Bible my whole life and I've had teachings from church and there's something about what Elizabeth is doing in the Sovereign Way that's created a space for us to experience ourselves as fully being human. And it's almost as if this embracing of these masteries, the 8 masteries, and today we're doing expansion, which is something I feel like I am in the middle of it right now, this expansion. So that expansion is something that's helping me actually appreciate what Christ has done for us. For him to have done what he did has brought to my awareness an understanding that's way deeper than what I could have experienced. So first of all, I want to just say what we've done up till now, the first 3 masteries, remembering is the first one, right? Recognizing and then releasing. So remembering is like, you know what? We're eternal beings. And I think you have to kind of own that in order to kind of get on this path. I'm not just a human. We've heard this a million times, right? I'm not a human having a spiritual experience. I'm a spirit having a human experience, right? And then the second, recognizing we're light workers. You can't get away from it. It's not going away. You see things differently, you feel things differently, you experience things at an intensity that's maybe beyond a lot of the people that you surround yourself with. And so having a group like this where you can connect is so essential because you're a community person. We're human and we need that. We need that nourishment. And then the third, which was done last week, is like this releasing that takes place, and a lot of you spoke about it, this deep forgiveness that you start to recognize. I don't need to hold this like person in my heart in a way that's hurting me anymore. I can release them and fully forgive them and feel good about it. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm not the only one that's been kind of hammered for the last 10 years. Do you guys feel that way? We have all gone through a cosmic expansion as a group, as a humanity. And it's been so powerful that I didn't even realize I was in it until like recently going through these masteries. I realized, oh my gosh, I have been on a road for expansion for a while. So I'm pretty sure you feel that way if you're listening to this right now. You have gone through, and I call it being hammered, right? And maybe we just needed to like hammer out those imperfections. But part of the importance of understanding the mastery of expansion is number one, what it took for you to get here. Number two, how is it that I should deal with this? And number three, what kind of like homework or practices or exercises can I do? So now that I've kind of brought you to what you've already done to get here, let's like feel good about that. You should feel really good that you're in this massive struggle where you feel like, oh my God, I can't get away from this. And the first point I want to make that has to do with recognizing that you're in expansion is seeing that, you know what? I'm not going to run away from this. I'm not going to self medicate. I'm not going to binge out on TV. I'm going to not overeat. I'm actually going to get up in the morning and do my yoga. I'm going to drink clean water. I'm going to do the things that nurture my experience so that I can face the challenge. And so that's the number one thing. Facing the challenges and kind of realizing that that's what you're doing right now and that's what you want to do is you owning, you know what? You're in expansion. You're getting ready to like basically blow up from the inside instead of blowing up and trying to control the outside. Do you know what I mean? So I think I had this tendency. I've done a lot of personal growth. I did Avatar, Tony Robbins. I did a little Scientology. I've done Miracle of Love. I mean, I've done so many different things. And even my last biggest, I would say 20-year focus on emotional intelligence, as much as it helped me viscerally to understand what's going on in my body, I still came from the perspective that I'm causing this. You got this. You just work harder, control more, Esther. You got this. You're gonna figure this out. And it came from this place of sincerity, like honestly, I just want to get better. I just want to be better. But at some point, you figure out in the journey that you just can't keep doing that. And what happened to me is, and I'm sure it's happened to a lot of you that are listening, the harder you worked and the more you tried to control, the worse it got. Right? And even if you're not older, your body starts to communicate. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep pushing. You can't, it's not more hours that you need here. And the harder you looked at the thing that you're trying to change in the outside world, it's almost as if God knew you needed just a little bit more pruning for you to realize, you know what? Let's just let go of this. And some of you have shared these stories too. So, this incredible company that we had that I thought was going to save the world, God shut it down so that, like, I could have this amazing experience of what it means to not be in control of everything, to realize that there's this bigger, universal, I don't know what you want to call it, but like energy. It's a God energy where the love of each other is way more important than me being right, right? Me softening my heart and recognizing, even though I learned a ton of stuff that I feel like could help everybody, it's not my job to like fix everybody else. And I think that that's part of how you know you're in expansion is you're on this journey, you have this hardship, you do your meditations, you do your praying, you do all the things you know you're supposed to do, and you realize, you know what? I'm just a part of this. I'm not in control of everything. So I think that's when we start to see how we handle it. And I started to realize, what if all of that worked the way I thought it should have worked? Would I have the level of faith I have right now? Would I have journaled to Jesus for more than 15 months about how much I love him and how much I adore and want to be a devotional person? None of that would have happened. None of it. So, whatever you guys did that got you through it, be proud that you built your faith. The faith. It reminds me of, I love that Chosen movie, and I've been kind of binging on it. And it's been helpful because when you're a servant and you're a disciple of Christ, you start to experience what the disciples did. And I think it's Gannus is how you say it, that Roman guy. He was one of the Gentiles, right? And he was put in a position of leadership, but he was so ashamed of some of the things he had done wrong. And one of the things he said, he saw the different things that Jesus did, and he said, you know, I'm not worthy to receive you, but, you know, Jesus, you just say the word and I will be healed. So he had such faith that he knew that things were going to be okay and his son would be healed, even if Jesus wasn't in his presence. And I feel like when you're in expansion and you expand like a little bit and you get through and you release, you kind of have that peace. You feel the peace that no matter what, how big of a storm's in front of you, it's almost like I get to witness it. I'm like, wow, this is powerful. Wow, I am amazing that God trusts me to handle this big of a storm. What does that mean? You know, that means that You are never put in a position of anything you can't handle. And if you have something that you feel like is like overwhelming, which is one of the things we do to resist our expansion, is we go into this like, oh my God, I can't take it. It's not true. And then Jeremiah, and I really encourage you to read the whole chapter on expansion in Elizabeth's book, The Sovereign Way, because she quotes the scriptures that support it perfectly. And one of them is Jeremiah 17:7 and 8. Blessed is the one who believes and trusts and relies on the Lord, and whose hope and confidence, expectation is in the Lord. For you will be nourished like the tree planted by the waters that spreads out its roots by the river and will not fear the heart when it comes, but your leaves will be green and moist, and you will not be anxious and concerned in any drought, and nor stop bearing the fruit. And I tell you what, that's exactly what happened. This last year, after I got baptized, is kind of when things really blew up. And I really believe that that ceremony and that experience of feeling what it felt like to be that committed helped me trust that my body is so powerful and so strong enough to handle this, not because Esther's doing it, because God is in me. That was the shift. Because when you're in expansion, one of the first phases you go through is you push harder and you think, you know what, I can do this. But it's kind of like I have kids, right? And my daughter, she was ready to move out at age 4, right? She was like, I'm all grown up, mom. I don't need you. And besides that, I don't think you're the right mommy for me. So I said, you know what? Let me see if I can find you another mommy. And I called my girlfriend who lived across the river from me. I said, Noreen happens to be Megan's mom. Noreen, my daughter thinks that she got the wrong mommy. Would you be willing to help her? Now, I feel like Jesus is like that. He knows that if we reject him, that he's not going to abandon us. He's going to create a situation where someone else will take care of one of his other servants of the Lord will be there to catch you. And that's exactly what happened. And after a few rounds of stepping in duck poop and having to shovel it and work in the yard and pick the flowers and weed, Rosie was ready to come home to her mama. And I think that it's such a beautiful metaphor because that's what I did to Jesus. I'm like, I'm so sorry, God. I didn't realize that you were taking care of me the entire time. So part of how you know you're in expansion is you will go through that. You will start to see that you are always cared for and you will always be able to bear fruit. Even if you feel you are on your last leg, it's not true. So this is when we shift into my next point that I really want you to understand. We go from conquest to engagement. To me, I see it as leaving the control to being responsible and being responsive to what it is I need to do, right? So I still have parenting that I need to have done, and I'm still overzealous. I think I can change everything. But recently, I realized with the job I had, Esther, you need to let it go. I had so many points of clarity of where I kept trying to make it work, trying to make it work, trying to make, and you know what? It wouldn't work. So instead, I just let it go. And I think some of you have shared your stories too, where you've gone through that. So you've either already gone through it, or you're still in it, or you're like me, where it's like the layers of onions. You know, I go through the whole process and then I'm back in there again. And I love the metaphor. I love lilacs. I went out to pick a bunch of them. They're so beautiful. Look at that. And when I was picking the lilacs today, I realized every one of those little beautiful flowers would not have been able to bloom If all those old crusty flowers from last year were still there, the minute that blossom really grew and expanded, the old dead stuff dies off. And so when you're in engagement, not by conquest, but by being responsive, you will see how you don't need to work harder. You might work smarter, you're still going to work, but you're not going to have that same energy of tension and anxiety of thinking where you have to control everything. So sometimes what you got to do is just figure out what is in the way is the way. You know, it's just like, just do it. You need to go through it. You can't go around it. And so then the next point that will help you in recognizing you're in expansion is you don't need to try harder or work harder, but you recognize that you're not the master architect. You're just a participant. You know, because when you're in conquest, you try to recreate in your own comfort zone what it is you think you need to do instead of like pushing through the thing. So I wanted to relate this to being sovereign, because in the sovereign way, I think a lot of times people want to not pay taxes, or maybe, you know, withdraw yourself from the matrix and all these structures that seem to be in control. But true sovereignty starts inside. Sovereignty is not equal to independence. With Christ erupting inside of our heart, you actually feel the universe of your growth from a soul perspective. So it's really expansion by surrendering. So Matthew 11:28-30, expansion of the soul, finally letting go outside of the outside stuff, and instead your inside kind of implodes. And that to me has been like, that's where you like just fall to your knees and cry because you feel this burst of love in your heart, and you bring that to everything, and you walk up to people and they just look at you and they go like, what do you do? You know what I mean? And it's almost like you don't know how to answer them, because you realize it's really who you've become that they feel and not what you're actually doing. So true soul expansion can only happen in a community. And so what that means is you can't do it by yourself. God is with you and in you. And that's the community that's provided so that you have this ability to surrender and this eternal energy that supports you, like the blossoms. Nobody sits around and worries whether or not the leaves are going to come out in the spring, you know, and they you can stare at them all day. It looks like they're never going to come out. And the next day, boom, they're there. Is anybody worried that the flowers are not going to blossom? No, they're gonna. And so are you. And so, really embracing that you are in the middle of the expansion already, the fact that you're even here listening to this is proof of it. And it's totally okay that at times you feel like, oh my God, I need to do something. And then you go, oh, wait a minute. No, I don't. I'm cool. Right? Like really coming back into yourself and realizing you're not alone. You're not just walking with Christ, He is in you. And in that, you are able to expand in ways way greater than what you thought you could. So I want to make sure that you not only recognize what you did to get here, but you also see what it is you're dealing with and learn and experience better how to handle it. So one of the things that you can do is look in Elizabeth's chapter where she has a hero's protocol. Amazing, right? Because one of the things that we tend to do when we expand is we might resist a little bit. I'm gonna tell you another story. I have this amazing Chefflair plant, and that thing would not grow. It was just like barely alive. It was in the perfect environment. It always had perfect water, perfect temperature, no wind. It was perfect. And then I realized, you know what's the problem? This plant needs some adversity. I put that puppy out on the porch in a very chilly wind. It went like this and just like, and I thought, oh, Esther, you're too tough on it. It's going to die. It's like shriveled up a little bit. And guess what? Look at that. A year later, it's a full blown freaking tree. Why? Because it needed to experience the elements of being alive in this dimension for it to really be able to know how to grow. And we are no different. So release any idea that you're going to be perfect through this process. It is very messy. I'm 100% on board for messiness. I'm okay with it. Why? Because I know every big mess storm I've been through, I've come out a way shinier crystal. And I think we are all crystals. You know, you are growing into being the brightest light. And in order for that light to really shine, for God's light to fully come out of you, you got to own that that is a little bit messy. So I wanted to share one more thing about allowing the unfolding. One of the things you need to do, like if you're in the middle of it right now and what I'm saying kind of resonates, and you're like, God, thank God it's not just me. One of the things you can do is really ask yourself, what is most important now? Not necessarily what's most important to me, what's most important now? Because if I see what's in front of me that needs to be done and I just focus on that, sometimes that's all you have to do. Just take care of the one thing. I want to move to South Carolina, have a tea house, use my dishes, meet all these people, build things, have a gardenia farm. I have all these ideas of what I want to do. But you know what? I need to sell my house first, you know? And it's kind of like Elizabeth uses a metaphor. Sometimes you got to tie your shoes before you start running. And maybe there's something there that you just need to like button up first. So look at each part of your life. Look at your work, your relationships, and your home. And this is your homework. You can write this down if you want. Work, relationships, and home. Where am I still in conquest and so vested about my future vision that I'm not actually looking at my what is of what's right now? And sometimes the thing that we need to do the most is the thing that we are the most resistant to. It's so simple, but you know what? We don't want to do it for whatever reason. Maybe it's having a conversation with a loved one where you just need to like own who you are with them. Maybe it's as simple as quitting your job. Not that you should quit your job, but look at it. Is it serving you? Is where you're living serving you? Don't be afraid to make those changes. And you know what they are. You know the ones. It's not all these other ones that I keep thinking about, right? It's the one that's right in front of me. You need to sell your house first, Esther. And sometimes that takes patience. So, in the analysis of conquest versus engagement, that will help you. And sometimes it needs to just start with your health. You know, we've been on a big personal journey these last 10 years, maybe it was 5 years for you. I don't know, but everybody's been hammered. And who feels like personal growth has been like real, so real? It's prepared you for this time where you have the ability to analyze what's right in front of you and then do the hero's protocol. Surrender, ground, power up, act, and allow. So I don't want to take any more time, and the hero's protocol is all listed in the back of the engagement chapter. I love how Elizabeth explains each component, but just for your homework for this week, ask yourself, what do I need to look at right now? So I think there's only one other thing I wanted to share, and it's an excerpt around expansion by surrender. I'm just going to read it to you. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Isn't that yummy? I just feel so much better about my own expansion, knowing that I don't have to do it all. And when you see these people that have done so well in expanding, they're going to give credit where it belongs. And they know it because we don't do this on our own. So that's all I have to share for today. I hope it helped you. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity.